The healing that I've experienced is continual. It's kind of like it's a cut that turns into a scar. So it's while it heals, it's always there. That scar is always going to be a reminder. Like a tattoo. There's always going to be that remembrance of what I am healing and what was.
My name is Atiya J, and this podcast was created as a way for me to discover and express my voice. In its development, it's become a beautiful creative platform for all of us to share and experience stories that will bring you pause as you connect with the truth of your authentic self in their reflection. If you didn't understand that, this podcast is not for you. If you did understand, welcome. Enjoy the tea.
Peace. Assalamu alaikum. What's up, everyone? Hi. Y'all remember me? It's your girl, Atiya J, a.k.a. TT, a.k.a. Tia, and this is another episode, finally, of Tea Time Podcast. And yeah, I'm back. I don't even know if this episode is going to have a topic besides, hi, I'm back. Remember me? Hello?
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah, man, how you doing? You good? I know you like that. I know you like that. How long you been back, man?
Because I'm going to just be straight up. As I've shared on previous podcasts, I'm going through a huge life transition and lots of huge life transitions at that. And I'm not in a space where I want to share everything about my life right now. I have a lot of huge transitions going on, a lot of shifts in just my mentality, my beliefs, my thoughts, the way of life that I thought I would be living. And there are a lot of shifts happening. And my boundary for myself, for my own protection right now, is that not everything needs to be shared. So I've actually been avoiding the podcast because of internal pressure to share different things that I'm experiencing and that is shifting for me in my life that I'm just not willing to share quite yet. And there might come a time where I'm gonna have to share regardless of how I feel about it. And I'm willing and I'm open for that in obedience to divine order, obedience to Allah, obedience to God, of course. However, right now, I understand and I have had the conversation that I'll know when it is time for me to share, and I will know when it is time for me to open up more vulnerably about different things going on in my life right now. However, right now, I do want to step back into the podcast, stop avoiding the podcast, because this is something that I love. This is a part of my career. This is a part of what it is that I'm building in my vision, general vision for my life. So the podcast, I created this back in 2020, as you all know, or if you're new, you don't know. I created this podcast back in 2020 as a way for me to give a platform for my voice. Because I often silence myself, and this podcast was an act of opening up my voice, opening myself up, standing up for myself, and actually being myself and speaking my truth and speaking my voice. So when I silence and when I step away from the podcast, I'm typically going through an internal battle of trying to stifle my voice versus allowing it to be heard, allowing me to be seen, and I'm stepping out of that battle right now. So I thank you all. Please forgive me for not releasing the podcast. I have backed up episodes that I don't know if they'll ever get out, because the way I go is things need to happen in the moment, or they usually don't happen at all. So I've been learning myself, learning to accept the way that I flow and work, learning to accept the way that my mind just thinks, learning to accept the way that I get confused and scattered and distracted kind of easily. I've really been internally and externally with some support, just learning myself and accepting myself as I am, rather than trying to make myself other than who it is that I am, right? Accept your own and be yourself. So that has been my process throughout this entire year for sure in the shifts. But it's been a process of probably since COVID, since I started this podcast, of just self-acceptance, learning my own self-worth, learning myself. So that is why I've been away from the podcast. So please forgive me for not being consistent with the podcast for the entire length of the podcast. However, lately it's just been super scattered. I've been all over the place. So please forgive me. I am forgiving myself as well for that. There are a lot of things going on, and it really was that internal pressure to do something that I'm not yet ready to do. And not even that I'm not yet ready to do it, but to do something for the wrong reasons, because I feel like I have to do it, rather that I'm in the space and I'm actually feeling the inclination, like the intention. I'm very intentional with doing something. I've been working with intention. Let me tell y'all, I've been working with intention all the time, because the scattered brain that I am learning that setting an intention for my day pulls me forward. So when I set an intention for my day, or I set an intention for an activity I'm doing, like the podcast, that actually pulls me forward without me having to think about it. I'm learning that one of my gifts is that if I write it, it's going to happen. If I say that this is where I'm at, then that is where I will be. So my just writing and stating my beliefs, or what it is that I desire, and actually being in alignment within my heart and my mind with that, it actually pulls me in life. So that's why I said, with what I am experiencing in transition in my life, I maybe had the thought that I need to express myself vulnerably on my podcast, but it's not fully aligned internally yet. There's still some internal strife and struggle that's going on, to where it would not be authentic for me to be crossing my own boundaries and sharing with the world something that's not settled within me first, unless called to by Allah. But I have not gotten that. I thought that's what it was, but it wasn't quite that yet. Or maybe it was in the moment, and that moment has passed. So there will be another time for that. So yeah, I'm just learning to trust myself a lot more, to trust my internal communication and teaching and relationship with Allah, and with the universe as I know it. Trusting just my diverse perspective and love for knowledge as it is, as a part of just who I am. Like, I'm always going to be seeking different avenues for connection with the divine, for knowledge and understanding of the divine. And I've really been able this year, it's been exciting to dive into that, dive into different means of communicating with Allah, diving into different ancient, recent, different thoughts and practices of submitting my will, submitting my life to a higher cause, submitting my life to my purpose, and remembering who it is that I am, who I was sent to be when I got to this earth, right? When we came to this place. So yeah, this has been a roller coaster of an experience in my life lately, and the roller coaster ain't over. Something that has grounded me for sure, and I'm so grateful for. You all know, some of you may know, that I am a certified life coach, and for the past year, I've been in a spiritual life coaching program that is delivered by Inner Visions Institute for Spiritual Development, which is Ayala Van Zant's school that she's had since before I was born. But that this is something I was called to actually back in 2020, but it was unavailable for me to apply, and I went the other route and got a life coaching certification just from a regular worldly school. However, I knew I wanted to ground my practice of life coaching in spiritual life coaching. So I've had the blessing of being in spiritual life coaching for the past year. So I'm currently a student, a candidate, God willing, graduating soon. And me being my first client, let me tell y'all, I'm ready. Come through, all my clients. I'm ready. Just my relationship with Allah has blossomed, is continuing to blossom. My confidence in myself, my realization of my self-worth, my realization of the fact that I did not believe I was worth much, has been so profound. And the fact that the healing that I've experienced is continual. It's kind of like it's a cut that turns into a scar. So, while it heals, it's always there. That scar is always going to be a reminder. Like a tattoo. There's always going to be that remembrance of what I am healing and what was. So the healing and the practice in my relationship with Allah is continual. And that is actually what makes me an awesome spiritual life coach because I get to be self-aware. I get to be present with myself in all times, and that makes me more capable of being present and aware of what comes up in my clients. I don't know how I got there, but that is somewhere that I just went in this podcast episode. So something that I noticed in my journal was that I wrote, I don't know what the topic was about, it's not very important, but I wrote that I am planting seeds of compassion for myself. And that was so touching for me to read. And when I reread it, I laughed because I said, yeah, because what you used to do was plant seeds of comparison. So I wanted to speak today about sowing seeds of compassion instead of sowing seeds of comparison. Something that I've learned about myself is that I had the internal belief that I'm worthless. And when you're worthless, that means you're worth less. You're worth less than ... You're worth less than my responsibility to my children. I'm worth less than my responsibility to getting money and paying a debt. I'm worth less than fill in the blank. So worthlessness is a type of belief that is constant. It grows, it shifts, it changes. It'll morph its way into being expressed by my behaviors without me even knowing it. So while I think I'm just doing my duty as a mother, taking care of my children, it is an act of worthlessness for me not to feed myself, but to be feeding my children. It's an act of worthlessness for me to get them snacks that they enjoy that build them up, but not get myself some snacks that I enjoy to build me up. It is an act of worthlessness for me to buy my children new clothing, but I'm recycling clothing over and over again and not creating space and creating opportunity for me to buy clothing or asking for help. So those are acts of worthlessness that I thought, this idea of people pleasing. It kind of carries over and spills over into all relationships. It's not just about friends or family or loved ones, but also even children. The way that we're taught to parent in this society is kind of self-sacrificing, and anything that is self-sacrificing is not of Allah. I'm learning anything for me, in my experience, that is self-sacrificing is an act of worthlessness, because I'm putting myself down, suppressing myself in order to, what I'm saying is in order to build somebody else up. But what it really is these self-limiting beliefs expressing themselves in my behavior, expressing themselves in my experience, and expressing themselves as keeping me away from what brings me joy, away from what makes me feel full. And it, in the Bible scriptures, it talks about that cup overflowing, right? So the cup overflowing is what gives to others. That's abundance. That's how we are meant to live. However, this society teaches, and this idea of worthlessness taught me that it doesn't matter how dry my cup is, I need to give to another to make myself worthy of love, So with worthlessness, sowing seeds of comparison, it is so frustrating because, like I said, healing is a constant. So it's not like figured this stuff out for myself and that's it. I get to wipe my hands clean of it. No, this is behavior that constantly shows up, and I get to see it in the way that I literally pick my fork up to eat. I get to see it in the way that I relate to my family, to my friends. I get to see it in the way that I'm handling the shifts and transitions in my life right now. It goes everywhere in my life. And just sowing seeds of comparison, like if you think of sowing a seed, when you sow a seed, it grows. What you water grows. So sowing seeds of comparison and watering my warped ideas of who I should be because this 31-year-old that I see on social media looks like they have it together and looks like they have the perfect family, looks like they have a successful marriage, looks like they're taking care of their children and homeschooling in the way that I feel like I'm not doing. That seed of comparison, it grows each and every time I even have the little tiny inkling of a thought. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us to watch our thoughts. Think 5 times before you speak, right? Because the thought, that continues the belief. But when you speak it too, that like solidifies it to the universe that, hey, this is what I believe. I believe I'm less than this person because of where I am and what I see in them. Meanwhile, when we're looking at others as a yardstick for what it is that we should be doing, there's no validation in that scheme, in that scale. There's no validation at all. I cannot look at somebody else who I don't even know, even somebody I do know. We don't know what's going on in the internal landscape of anybody unless they open up and share it with us. And typically when they do, in my experience, they've experienced some type of healing, or they're asking for help because they recognize that there's an issue or a disconnect. So sowing these seeds of comparison just creates chaos and craziness, and it continues that cycle of I'm worthless, I can't. So in my choice, right, after the awareness that I was sowing seeds of comparison due to the belief in worthlessness of myself, unless I'm doing something for somebody, I have been able to choose that I'm going to sow seeds of compassion for myself. That when I see that 31-year-old on Instagram or wherever I see them who looks to have the perfect marriage and the perfect homeschooled, beautiful children that have the best clothes in the world, well, hey Tia, have you seen Journey and Khalik? And how intelligent they are, how they bring light and joy to everyone just from walking by them? Do you see that you cannot go anywhere with your children and not cause somebody to smile or comment on how cute and beautiful they are and how wonderful you are as a mother? Even if you don't get any type of external recognition, do you realize that your children are sitting quietly right now and you're even able to have this internal conversation? You're able to have 30 minutes of journaling when you have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old in the house alone, most of the time, alone, just you, and you still create space for yourself to connect with Allah and to connect with yourself internally. Do you realize you do that, Tia? That's a seed of compassion. Tia, do you realize that you are working on yourself so well that you are praying through the transitions in your life instead of being angry, and you're able to smile with everything that you are experiencing, that you're able to even show love to people who did not always show love to you? Do you see how that's healing the relationships and the bonds that you have with those who you love, even as your relationships are shifting? Damn, Tia. That's something to be thankful for. That's something that is worth a lot. And you're doing this all off of the strength of just who you are. Because that's you choose and you strive to be a loving, a kind, and a righteous person. And that's just who you are. And you always lean into who you are, even when you don't recognize it. That's sowing a seed of compassion. That's speaking a word of love. That's turning the other cheek, right? We always talk about turning the other cheek. If somebody slap you, you turn your face. Well, what about when you slap you? Do you beat yourself up, or do you ask for forgiveness and express forgiveness to yourself? You know, and these are the types of things that I've been learning to do. I've been creating habits, creating new habits, recognizing habits that don't work and that maintain those limiting beliefs of worthlessness and comparison. I've recognized that I had habits that sow seeds of comparison, right? And in recognizing that, being aware, in acknowledging it, now I'm weeding out those seeds, right? I'm taking out those seeds that will not bear fruits that are worthy of me, right? I only want seeds to be watered that bear fruits that are worthy of me. And I'm not a gardener or a farmer. I want to be one day, so I'm gonna stick with this metaphor. But it's when I reflect, I am so proud. I'm so happy and I'm so grateful. And this is not just me. I've had a whole bunch of friends, a whole bunch of, just regular interactions with everyone, just random people that I meet at the playground or the street who have spoken a word into me, whether I liked it in the moment or not. Every experience that I've had with everyone for the past year has been extremely impactful, has been extremely supportive in just my self-improvement and growth and development in accepting my own and being myself. So, yeah, this podcast has just gone some places. Basically, I am no longer sowing seeds of comparison. I am aware enough to recognize when I've planted a seed that is not going to bear fruit that I want. And I am able to, I have the tools, the toolbox. I have the prayers. I have the wherewithal to be able to accept myself and be with myself where I'm at. And actually, maintain myself. Take care of me. That's self-care, right? Self-care for me really is in cleaning out my soil, purification, right? Cleaning out my soil so that it's no longer growing and bearing fruit that is unlike me, right? This year has been a lot, and it will continue to be a lot. And it is my intention to be in front of this camera a lot, expressing and sharing things that I am authentically ready and willing to express and share in the moment, not things that I feel forced to share. But yes, I thank you all for riding with me. I thank you all for your words of encouragement and love. For those of you who I know, those who I don't know, your words of encouragement and love, and leaving a review and a comment and a share and a like on this podcast wherever you are listening to it. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review with a beautiful comment, writing whatever your experience of the podcast is. I thank you all for riding with me. I thank you all for looking out for me. I thank you all for receiving me back in the podcast. Thank you. Something I'm shifting is making my podcast shorter. That is feedback that I've had for a long time, and I agree with it. So we're going to keep the podcast, 20 minutes to 30 minutes. That is the goal. That is the intention, that my podcast episodes will be 20 minutes to 30 minutes, unless there is a conversation I'm having with somebody. And even then, perhaps we're going to cut it up into different parts and make it 20 minutes to 30 minutes so that I could just respect your attention spans and my attention span, for real, so that I'm speaking clearly and concisely as well. That's something that I'm working on. I'm a Gemini. And some of y'all may not believe in the signs and all of that, but I'm definitely a Gemini, the way they describe it. But I appreciate you all for listening. I thank you so much. I give love and I receive love, and thank you for hearing my voice. Oh, sow some seeds of compassion for yourself and others, right? We cutting out them seeds of comparison. Peace.
Pretty chicks all wanna smile at me. These rap cats, man, they all got their style from me. And if I ever see them, man, they probably bow to me. And when this beat drop, I know they gon' lean. World debut, I know they gon' fiend. Everything Mississippi to the Palm Springs. Girls from brunettes down to blonde queens.